Rob and Slim Show. We are back with Peter Wingsoe from ILLEST Streetwear, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. Peter, how are you? You are CEO of ILLEST Streetwear. And
Yes.
where did that all start?
The ILLEST started 20 years ago, originally as a blog called Fat Lace. And it was started by a gentleman called Mark Arsenal up in San Francisco. And he started the brand essentially as a blog, blogging about, all the cool things, particular shoes. And the blog became quite big, very popular, and he wanted to essentially start making some money off of it and started a brand. He didn't want to call it Fat Lace, so he started the ILLEST brand to kind of complement his blog, and then that brand kind of took off on its own.
Wow, that's crazy that it started that long ago.
Yeah, so the blog was initially for 10 years, and then the ILLEST brand was created 10 years ago. So essentially, Mark has been doing this for 20 years, I think Mark himself is somewhat of a legend in the streetwear because, he was probably, in the very infancy when streetwear really got started. And I know that he's been part of many of the streetwear brands that have, some have come and some have gone.
Yeah.
But I think that, he's still around and he's still here, and we're doing quite well.
Cool. So it just went from just observing and talking about the stuff you guys saw to making your own.
Essentially, I mean, back in those days, it was kind of like, you create some real cool graphics and you go out and buy, blank T-shirts from Fruit of the Loom or from Hanes, and then you find a printer to, print these cool things on. Of course, that's not what streetwear is today, but that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah.
It evolves over the years, and you start selling more and more shirts. You start realizing, wait, I don't need to buy, a Hanes shirt and print it on there. I can make my own shirt, and I can make it exactly the way that I want it. That's how it grew. ILLEST became, quite big here in the United States, and then was very fortunate to start going international. And today we sell ILLEST pretty much all over the world, but we have very, very big markets in China, big markets in Taiwan, big markets in Japan, and a huge market of all places in the Philippines.
Cool. Yeah, I was gonna say I would think it would be something that would branch out to the overseas markets.
Yeah, I think today we're probably one of the biggest streetwear brands in Southeast Asia. I mean, there's many brands here in the United States that are much bigger than what we are. But I would say in Southeast Asia, there's few brands that have the doors that we do.
Have you had any copycats? Have you had anyone trying to bootleg your stuff? Because I was looking on the site. There's some amazing stuff. I love the Zoom T-shirt. That thing is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the streetwear, a little bit part of the streetwear, culture is that I wouldn't say in a negative way, but everybody a little bit copies each other and they see cool stuff and kind of, indirectly knocks it off. But I always kind of look at it, a little bit more of a compliment. That if somebody knocks you off, that means that you must be doing something right?
Yeah,
it's a lot like music, like somebody,
or even like in the podcast world, where you hear you're a ripoff of this person. It's like you are, that's who influenced you. So yeah, I do. I see that as a compliment.
Peter,
Yeah.
what qualifies?
I think the one thing that we're not so happy about is that Amazon. We don't sell on Amazon. But you would be surprised if you go on to Amazon, you type ILLEST, how many products come up there, and it's all fake.
Oh, wow.
That we're not happy about. And that we don't appreciate. The quote unquote, kind of copying and making, a different version, we take that as a compliment. The flat out knockoffs, those we're not happy about.
Were you gonna ask something?
Yeah, I was gonna ask what qualifies as streetwear.
Well, when just I want to throw in too. Just thinking like it makes me think of like the old Echo shirts or like Mecca from back in the day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, the way that streetwear essentially started was that, it was basically the guys or the girls, from the streets that was creating really, really cool stuff. They weren't, the fashion designers. They didn't have a fashion show, but they were uber creative, and they created, really, essentially back then it was mostly just prints. They would create really cool graphics, and they would find a printer that would, print it on a T-shirt, and that's what, kind of, again, it wasn't the commercial stuff. It was more the
Independent.
on the street.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and that became really, really cool, and slowly the brands grew. And I mean, initially it was just kind of like the small communities that would wear it. And I don't know if you guys remember back in the days, there was a show called, well, they're still around, but they aren't as big as they were back then, but called Hot Import Nights or Night Vision.
No, I don't recall that.
So back 10, 15 years ago, well, I guess even less, there was a show called Hot Import Nights. There was these shows that 26 shows a year, so every other weekend there was a big show, and these shows could attract between 10, 20, I mean, the big shows maybe 50,000 people, and, you'd set up a booth, and you just sell your merchandise there.
Okay.
And that's where you were available, and you had a huge following, and you could sell, literally 100,000 T-shirts in one day.
Wow.
And of course, when you start thinking about, oh, this is great, can make a lot of money, this is a success, then you start thinking kind of broader. And wait a minute, if I can sell this many in one day, how many can I sell throughout, the United States if I start going to stores?
Yeah.
And then you start going to, kind of the mom and pop stores, and then the bigger department stores start taking a look at you, and they go like, ooh, they're selling quite well. Maybe we should start carrying it too. And all of a sudden, everybody else is starting to come in, and then people realize that, this cool stuff that was created on the streets could be, kind of mass-produced and mass-made.
Mm-hmm.
And, in came, bigger brands that, were created as the streetwear. They weren't necessarily created on the street. There were more, the commercial kind, and there's many brands that do that today, all the way to, where we kind of are today, where, it's the luxury brands, it's the Louis Vuitton, it's the, it's the really high-end brands that are doing these collaborations with streetwear.
That's
kind of to.
I was going to ask, Peter, do you seek out like new upcoming like artists with the company? Do you seek like the hottest guy on the street right now to like work with you?
We don't look so much at like the up and coming. I know Mark works a lot with them and kind of helps them and guides them, try to create their own things. But that's more his, because that's his passion. As a brand, we more look at, where we can do collaborations, to create, kind of cool things. I mean, we did, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bear Brick, but we did the first Bear Brick, which is the tiny one. And then just recently this year, actually, we launched our second Bear Brick, which is the, slightly bigger one. It's called the 400%. And we're hoping to launch the 1,000%, which is the big one, probably next year. So we do quite a few, different collaborations. We have a couple of collaborations coming up with the big movie studios late this year, early next year. We have a collaboration right now that's not available in the United States, but it's for the Asian market with The Simpsons. So we do lots of collaborations, but, with different brands. We've done some with steering wheels. We've done some with car seats. We've done, we kind of try to stay within that, the car culture, because essentially that's how the brand started, and that's how our main audience is very much into that, into that street cars, type thing.
Oh, wow. I saw too, Peter, that you co-created a company back in the day called Pink Dot, which is responsible for like all the e-commerce trends nowadays, kind of like Uber Eats type of stuff. How did you have the insight to like see that was going to be something big?
So yeah, that was many moons ago. And essentially back then there was no internet, or at least not how we know it today.
That's what it seems like. It seems like you got in it like real early, like when it was like the Wild West still.
It was. I mean, this is back in the late '80s, early '90s. We really didn't have. I mean, AOL was just starting to come. It was dial-up. There really wasn't. We knew from going kind of around and looking, kind of pretending that we were looking, into the future. We knew that there was something. We actually at that time thought that it was kind of a video phone, and it was all connected to the 1-800 numbers, and that's how it was all going to work. That's of course not the reality. But essentially what it was is that we had bought a liquor store up on Sunset and La Cienega, kind of with the thought that it's location. And if you have that perfect location, you're going to become a success. Unfortunately, we learned that saying is not entirely true, because I think that anybody can tell you that that's probably one of the best locations in all of Los Angeles. But that didn't make us a success, because we had the great visibility location, but we didn't have we didn't have the greatest accessible location. There was no parking. And there's no parking really, anywhere near there. So how do you really park your car and go into the store? So again, we had the great location visibility, but we didn't have a great location, access-wise.
Yeah.
So my dad always told me, if the customer doesn't go to you, you go to them. And that's kind of, the idea is that, okay, well, if they're not going to come to us, then we'll go to them. It was, kind of the right product at the right time. We essentially started delivering alcohol to people. So when we couldn't drive anymore, we would, deliver it to them. And when they came home from the clubs, we would deliver them a sandwich. And so it was, we had no minimum.
Yeah.
And back in the old days, we only charged 99 cents for delivery.
That's awesome.
So it was nothing.
I remember, just a side note, I used to work in a pharmacy, and I remember taking, our delivery orders because we delivered medicine. And I remember one of the guys saying once, like, I'll give you $20 if you pick me up a pack of cigarettes on the way. Like, yeah, no, that just makes me think of that. Like, nobody did it at the time. So, yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, we started essentially as a liquor delivery. And then we started realizing, well, if you want liquor, you probably want a sandwich. And if you want a sandwich, you probably want, some water too. And if you want that, maybe you want some popcorn. And if you want popcorn, maybe you want a video. And by the way, have you done your laundry lately? So why don't we pick up your laundry and wash it for you and bring it back to you? So, we kind of became that all-around convenience store that was, delivering. We were always looking, like if we go there, how do we go and pick up and deliver you stuff at the same time?
Yeah.
So we essentially went from a big disaster, from a big, money-losing business, to printing some flyers on. We couldn't afford to do, color print, and there was no real Kinkos around back then.
Wow.
So we printed on some, yellow paper and green paper that we bought at the local office supply store.
Yeah.
And, we just kind of went door to door, and I would say literally almost overnight, we just exploded. And within a couple of years, we had 200 drivers, we had 300 drivers. And by the mid-90s, we had over 800 delivery drivers out of 8 tiny little stores. And we didn't even allow people to come into our store anymore, because if we did that, then we had to comply with all these rules and regulations, and we couldn't stock to the ceiling, and, rentals was expensive. And so we didn't allow people to come into our stores, and we just delivered everything in 30 minutes or less. And we became a big success. No minimum. So if you want, you can have a candy bar delivered.
Wow. And I just love that you made a success out of something that was not going to be. Like, that is just incredible right there to have that insight.
Yeah, actually, back then everybody was like, "Oh, you guys can't make money. Oh, that's never gonna work. Oh, nobody's gonna want to order.
Yeah, just
Nobody
give up.
want to order extra milk from you guys. That's not gonna work."
Wow.
But the truth was that it did, and I always said that we're not really selling eggs or soda or anything. We're selling, our selling proposition is really that we deliver it to you in 30 minutes or less.
Yeah, that's a key point right there. I feel like, yeah, that's awesome. Wow, wow.
So it's
Yeah, we
interesting.
had people that literally ordered from us every day that spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars with us every year.
Yeah, that makes me think of now. I think they have an app called Shipped, where yeah, you can have them pick up food at the store for you, bring it to your house, yeah, all that stuff. And yeah, you did it like that long ago. That's amazing.
I was gonna say you were COVID ready 30 years ago.
I was gonna say
Not letting anybody in your store, bringing stuff to them.
And let me tell you guys, it was different times. It was not easy because, there was no real infrastructure. Credit card really wasn't a thing back then.
Right. You
People
had
would pay with cash. Or worse, with checks, and checks would bounce all over, and you wouldn't find out until 2 weeks later that they bounced a check. In the meantime, they placed, 5 more orders, and you're just going, oh, God, I'm going to get 5 more bounce checks,
Did you have the old credit card machines with the carbon paper that you had to, like, rub a couple times to get the carbon copy of?
Exactly. Like, when people did credit card, we were like, oh, please, no, don't pay with a credit card. That means I need to bring that little portable credit card machine that always jams and, the carbon copy. And when you put something on top of it, the carbon goes all the way through and you can't read the numbers anymore. Oh, man, it was very different.
Yes.
It's not so easy. I can tell you, if we had all the luxuries that we have today.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's hilarious. I was gonna ask you too. Slim brought it up. Like, I was gonna ask, does COVID affect anything you do with the marketing, or will it affect anything?
I mean, it's affected us hugely. I mean, with ILLEST and any of the clients that I do consulting for and that I advise on, I mean, everybody's been affected by it. And I think, in the beginning, we went in a little bit naively and thinking that, this is going to last 2 or 3 weeks. And in 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to go back and everything is going to go back to normal.
Yeah.
And here we are 5 months later and, nothing is going back to normal. And the truth is, even if, we get a vaccine, here in the next couple of months, nothing is going to go back. I mean, it's not going to be what it used to be. I kind of think that, we were probably on a certain path. I mean, retail was somewhat dying anyway. I think that we just, went into the future 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years ahead of where we would otherwise have gone, probably regardless. So yeah, things have changed and things are changing. I think online. I mean, I think a lot of people that didn't believe in delivery, or that that thought, well, delivery is for you, but it's not for me, and that might have been scared or not felt comfortable with it. I mean, a lot of those people are now very comfortable with it, right?
Yeah. Yes.
They weren't comfortable with it 6 months ago, and the truth is, had this not happened, they might not have been comfortable with it for another couple of years. But given this effect, they are comfortable with it now. And I don't think a lot of these people, they might go back to some extent, but they're never going to go back to the way that it was before.
I agree. And the last I read, it said like 3 to 5 years this could be around. So it is. It's a long haul, I feel.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I was just reading an article, I think it was yesterday or over the weekend, that said, that 2/3 of Americans are not ready to get the vaccine, even if it does come out, or when it comes out.
I was thinking of that too.
If we just look at that, I mean, then, wow, we're going to be, it's going to be a while, right? When are these 2/3 going to be comfortable?
Yeah.
That means that 1/3 of the population will be vaccinated. I mean, that's not a lot.
No, and I guess they're going to wait to make sure the others don't have have problems. I don't know why they wouldn't. Same with the mask. I say, like, I've dealt with in everyday life, and people have talked about people like refusing to wear the mask. Like, why wouldn't you? If it's one thing that could reduce it, why wouldn't you just wear the mask? I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I mean, I used to live in Asia, and I lived in Thailand for many years. And I mean, in Thailand, number one, we don't shake hands, we don't, hug and kiss. It's very much, very respectful, keep our distance. So social distancing is kind of like a norm there.
Yeah.
And remember the first time I had just kind of started my new position in Thailand, in Bangkok. And I had some allergies, and I came into the office, and I was, kind of sniffling and coughing a little bit in my office. And in comes one of the ladies that worked with me, and she very nicely put a little mask on my desk, and I kind of looked at it and go like, what is this for? And she was like, sir, you might want to wear this.
I was going to say, I thought that was something they already practice in a lot of other countries.
Exactly. So, I mean, at that time, I learned, this is 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago now. So I learned that, if you're not feeling well, you put on a mask. If you're not feeling well, you call in and you tell your boss that, you know what, I'm going to stay home because I don't want to get anybody sick.
Yeah.
Kind of, laughed about it, because here in the United States, if you call your boss and tell them that you're sick, you better show up the next day with one arm less, or, a certificate from your doctor that, that you were half dead yesterday.
Yes.
Right? Because, people expect you to show up to work unless, one of those two things happen. In Asia, they're like, no, don't come. You're feeling a little bit sick. No, don't come in.
Wow. Yeah. I was told, the show must go on, or it's Friday, even though you've got the fever and you can't get off the floor. Just go in. The weekend's here. Like, yeah.
Exactly, right. But so I got very used to wearing masks. So for me, it's kind of second nature at this point. So, to be honest with you guys, I was in Asia in January, and I was, I've been flying with masks for years. When I get on a plane, I put on a mask. And I was out in Asia in January, and I was in Thailand, and they started shutting down. And I came back here, and I just kind of continued wearing my mask, and I thought, it's great.
See, I would have been like the guy, like, what does he have? Like, I would have been looking at you funny, like, what are you, why are you wearing that, dude? Like, come on.
It is crazy.
You go through the airport, or you sit there on the plane, and you get these looks of people that go like, what do you have?
Yeah.
Do you have the plate?
Yes.
People are acting like their freedoms are being taken away from them because they gotta wear masks. Like, I saw a Facebook post recently that was like a picture of people holding signs that said, starting September 15th, no more mask. Like, why?
Really? I didn't know
I saw that.
Was
somebody
a movement.
Shared it, but there's people that are saying, starting September 15th, no more mask. We're taking our freedom back. Like, what?
Oh, okay.
You're right.
Good for you guys.
It's amazing. Like, these people that are these anti-mask, it's like, they're so passionate about it. It's like, really? It's just a mask.
Yeah, you're being childish.
I don't want to be superficial here, but some of them
I'm taking your firstborn away.
Yes. Some of them look better with the mask on, Peter. I gotta say that.
I look better with the mask on.
like cover that ugly up. Cover the ugly up.
I will admit, the other day I saw somebody, I was like, ooh, good looking. Took off the mask. I was like, ooh, yeah, no, not so good.
I kind of feel like maybe, I don't know, I understand how the Arab countries go. Like, when I see a nose, I'm like, oh my God, that's exotic. Like, I got a little peak right there.
Yeah.
Peter, I want to ask.
Yes. People definitely look better with a mask on.
Yeah. I want to ask too, Peter, having done so much, is there anything in life that you still want to do?
Of course, there's always things that I want to do, but I do a little bit pride myself that if I did have the unfortunate event of dying tomorrow, I would be, pretty happy, like that I've done quite a bit. I think I've done more in my lifetime than most, or more in up until today than most get to do in their entire lifetime.
Yes.
I've been fortunate enough to, I was born in Denmark. I grew up in Germany. I came here to America. I've lived, quite a few states here in America, and I've lived in Asia, quite a few countries in Asia. So I've kind of been there, done that. But that, of course, doesn't mean that, I don't want to do more.
Yeah.
So there's always, there's always things that I would want to explore. I've never really been to Africa, and I would love to go. I would love to go down to Nigeria and kind of explore that, and South Africa. I've never been, and it's kind of a little bit fascinates me. Don't know why, the Middle East, it fascinates me a lot, but I never had the opportunity to go there, and I don't necessarily would say that I have a huge desire to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And not for any, particular reason. Just, it's like, for me, it's just these big skyscrapers and, tons of Rolls Royces driving around, and that doesn't really necessarily excite me that much. I'd much rather like to see other things.
Yes. That's awesome, though. Peter, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
No problem. Where can everybody find you, and where can everybody find ILLEST?
ILLEST at illestbrand.com, and me, sometimes here and there on Instagram at my last name, which is @Wingsoe.
Okay, cool. All right, dude. Thank you so much. When the show goes up and everything and we get all the links, I will email it and you will get all that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
You too, Peter.